Interestingly, Montana Code School is probably the first startup to talk at least at this million cups that was sort of started at a million cups.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because there was a million cups, which I actually wasn't at, but Jen, Kai, Harold, and a few others were at back in May, and we didn't have any speakers, so they adapted. So Jen's husband Nathan said, let's do a lean coffee, which we're like, what's a lean coffee? Well, I didn't say that. I wasn't here, but people said, what's a lean coffee? So people kind of suggest topics they'd like to talk about, and then they sort of vote on them, and they devote some time to talking about them. And a few of us, myself included, had sort of been loosely floating this idea about whether we could start a coding school in Montana. And that was put up on the list, and lots of people said, that sounds like a great topic, let's talk about that. So I was over in the launch pad, and kind of 10:30, Jen comes back over and is like, there was lots of great conversation about the code school. People really want to make that happen. So we decided to start one. And maybe I'll describe what it is, and then you can talk a little bit about kind of how we got there.
Yeah.
So what is the Montana Code School? The Montana Code School is a coding boot camp. It takes individuals with no or little coding experience to being entry-level job, programmer ready in about 12 weeks. It's an intensive boot camp. It's modeled on coding boot camps which are springing up across the country, particularly in the tech centers, the Bay Area, Seattle, Portland, Austin, New York, Chicago, those kind of places, and now little old Missoula. And we've done it really for one primary purpose, which is really to support the kind of people in this room, is to provide tech talent to help our existing tech businesses and businesses that need tech people to grow. So that includes startups. So that's our ambition, is to provide a talent pipeline to Montana as long as the business community needs that. So I'll let Kai talk about kind of our first cohort and kind of plans and some of the logistics of how we're doing that.
So it was official as of the 8th. We have enough students to run our cohort. I was sweating, like up at night, and there was like 8 of us that were just on pins and needles to get this done. And really, it's awesome. We've got 10 students, 6 men, 4 women, and they're all really strong, super diverse cohort, ranging from like 21 to, I believe, 45 as far as like ages. So life experience, just tons of different life experience. We're going to put them all in a room and start to teach them how to code. They've shown a lot of interest before getting to this by really like going through some online programs and realizing they need some structure to really get into the profession, take it from a hobby to a profession of theirs. So we've put together the team, and really it all started with obviously the lean coffee here, but when you throw something on a calendar and start gauging interest, and the community as a whole has come together for this. I mean, we've hit critical mass that we need to pull something like this off, because there was no single person who did this. It was volunteer time through and through, and just hundreds of hours. I don't know, we probably broke the 1,000-hour mark at this point easily, of people's time and energy saying this is something that Missoula needs, this is something that Montana needs, because we need to change. We not only need to meet the needs of the companies that obviously aren't filling their talent pipeline right now, but 5 and 10 years from now, what is Montana in terms of technology? What is the resources we have for companies that are starting here? What is the resources for companies who are saying, man, Seattle, the Bay Area is too expensive. Where is there a good tech community that we can really leverage and do that? So it's really a full spectrum, gauge of people's interest in changing Missoula and Montana for technology. There's been a lot of work done over in Bozeman, and we get to leverage that. We really appreciate that, and now we're starting something here that, adds more over here. I mean, companies need tech people. The deficit's huge. I read a number once. There's 150,000 tech job deficit a year, and they can't. Companies are importing people, and they can't get them fast enough. So there's a lot of brilliant minds that wouldn't have the opportunity to really get into this tech because of life situations that we're able to provide that to now, which is really the heart and soul for me behind it, is seeing people who should be writing code, who have the passion for it, who love it, but they just need that structured space to get through it and to get into it. Let's see, are we to questions?
Before we do questions, why don't we do this so we don't have to pass the mic? When someone asks a question, just repeat it when you answer it, so that way it's on the
Yeah.
video. So I have a question. What was some of the feedback that you got, both positive and negative, when you were approaching this in the community and saying, we want to do a code school? What were some of the things that you got back?
So the question was kind of positive or negative feedback from the community. I can't think of a single piece of negative feedback. Period.
You didn't have anybody say, we have Pony Express, why do we need that?
Nope, nope. So the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. We did kind of it's been fun for Jen and I in the Launchpad, where we're teaching people how to do kind of startups and the approach you take, and we've been, I think, pretty faithful to that methodology of sort of lean startup and minimum viable product. But we went out and did don't build it and hope they'll come, figure out if they'll come, and then build it. And a big part of that was to go talk to the tech community and say, do you need talent? If we train people, will you hire them? And the overwhelming response was yes, and to the point where we're like, and how can we help? So they've been volunteering their time to mentor during it. Some have given some money for scholarships. Many have said we want to be actively involved through the program so that they can meet the students going through it as potential recruits. And that's a key success factor for these programs. Is this is not about sort of getting a certificate. It's about getting someone to a point where they can get hired into a high-paying job. So to deliver on that promise, we have to have employers that want to follow through on that. So the response has been phenomenal. We've got a pretty healthy list of kind of Montana tech businesses and non-tech businesses that are kind of on the website that want to kind of hire from us, including kind of ones in town here, Submittable, Orbital Shift, Adventure Life, over in Bozeman, kind of Wisetail, Printing for Less, Workiva, kind of here and in Bozeman. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about university buy-in and culture, and then like maybe university attitudes about like, you know, how this might be affecting their status quo?
I think the university reception, sorry, so the question was, how's the university responding to this? The university has responded incredibly positively. I mean, President Engstrom mentioned it in his sort of kind of opening address for this academic year. It will take place on the university campus in the UC. Will be hosted, so it's not a university program per se, it's actually being run out of Montech, which is a not-for-profit entity. But we're going to host it on the campus because that's a great learning environment, a great environment for a boot camp when there's kind of pizza and pool tables kind of across the way. So yeah, and I think this is a very complementary program. People ask, well, there's a computer science program, but computer science is a 4-year degree. It's teaching people much more sophisticated levels of programming than what we're teaching someone in 12 weeks. So they're complementary, and people coming out of those programs might ultimately end up in similar careers, but could end up in sort of quite different places doing different things with their skills. Andy?
What's the cost, and how young or old can you be?
So the cost for our first cohort was $6,000. We sat down and ran the numbers, and our list price is $8,000. But for our first cohort, we wanted to get it out there at just a little bit less and get our students we needed. And we made it happen really quick. We didn't start advertising till July 18th is when we officially kicked it off and started advertising, started telling people. So we, 6 weeks we had to get more than 8 students. That was like our go, no-go line. And then, I apologize, what was the second?
The cost? I'm sorry, the age.
The age. So we've done a lot of research, actually Kelsey has, in what will it take for us to be able to accept students down to 16 and get that younger range. We haven't officially have that on the docket yet as something we can do, but we've been looking at that and working with Missoula Public Schools. We've had conversations with them. So, and then up to really, it's more of a competency in computers than it is an age range. Can you, get around a computer? Can you navigate it? Can you, what's your ability to learn? that process. So there's no upper end spectrum. It's just a competency, because it's an intense program. I mean, it's 40 hours a week plus some time reviewing at home. And if you don't really understand a computer from the get-go, I mean, you could be 30 and just haven't spent a lot of time on a computer. We've worked with people to set up like longer term programs for future cohorts. Like, hey, get some background knowledge on this. Spend some time learning on this website and watch these videos and up your competency level so that when you come into the program, you will be successful. And that's been a huge process, is making sure that we get people in the program that can finish. It's not about just getting the dollars in the door. That doesn't do us any good. We need the people on the streets with the skills.
I think the other thing that we've seen and learned, and Harold, who's going to be part of our instructional team, has been very strong on this, is a lot of it's about sort of aptitude and mindset. And we are definitely focused on not producing your kind of the stereotype of a coder, of this sort of spotty 20-year-old kind of white guy sitting in the dark with headphones on, who's unable to communicate. That effective programmers, it's a team sport, it's a collaborative approach, not just with other programmers, but with the business or the organization that you're developing that software for. So we have a strong focus on people that are effective communicators, that are problem solvers, that are creative individuals, and that will enjoy that kind of creative environment, that kind of creative career.
I have a couple questions. One is, I was really excited at when you kind of launched it at HVN or whatever in July, that you were talking about making a commitment to a diversified cohort, not just in age, but also scholarships for women or vets or Native Americans. So I'm interested in how the success of that is coming along, and if some parts aren't. I know, obviously, like, what can we do for you? That's sort of the 1 million cups question. On that specifically or in general, but then also as a startup owner who's getting ready to like hire their first support staff, and then the next thing might be a programmer. I'm not a big submittable yet, right? So how, is this gonna be relevant for me too, I guess, or not me personally, but small
Sure.
startups, right?
Yeah, so the diversity question was a press release yesterday or Monday from the Women's Foundation of Montana. So we received a grant from the Women's Foundation of Montana for $10,000 to help us provide scholarships for women. As Kai said, 4 out of our 10, so 40% of our cohort is women. We think they're really strong women, so I think they're going to do great. Sorry, I'm getting a prompt from the back of the room, which we'll come back to. Veterans, I think we're still sort of working through the best way to reach that community, but that's definitely high on our agenda. Devin Holmes, who's part of the team, the organization he runs is focused on the veteran space, so we're very keen to get veterans involved. In terms of how you can help us or how we can sort of help you to some extent, I mean, I think spreading the word, encouraging people of all backgrounds that, as I just said, this is, as Kai said, this is something that's open to anyone as a career opportunity if that kind of the mindset and aptitude, so encourage them to come to us. We would certainly, I mean, your Gather Board's a software business, right? So we'd love to have you come and talk to the cohort about what it is your business does, because they need to understand what are the diversity of different businesses out there they could potentially be part of. So if you're not a big organization, you may not be in a position you want to be offering scholarships and things like that right now, but you can certainly share a little bit of your time and a little bit of your experience. That'll be incredibly valuable. The prompt I got from the back, which is sort of relevant to this as well, is we're actually going to run a little kind of mini boot camp this weekend. So if there are people that are sort of curious, want to dabble, they can come to a little boot camp this weekend that's going to give them a bit of a kind of crash course introduction to sort of what coding is and how to do it. So if you know people that can scramble and come along this weekend at short notice, we'd be delighted to have them come along.
At the other end, after they're trained in the coding, I am not technical, so this is going to be hard for me to even ask, but I know someone that's been writing code since he was in high school, and he's working for a company right now, but if he wanted to come back to Montana, and transition into something like that, these companies that you said you've got a list of that are offering to hire these people, if he were trained, what could he expect to make as a salary? He's in a management position now and has a young family, so I need to know if any of these people, you know, could offer that transition.
So with that, it's.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Oh, the question is, what is the salary expectations for somebody coming out of this program? So you look across the board, there's a myriad of different salaries offered. It's kind of like baseline junior dev is between 35 and 50,000. It's highly dependent on the skills and one's ability to adapt and come out of that program and the company they're going into. And up from there, I mean, once you have 3 to 5 years under your belt, it drastically goes up. And depending on the area and the company you're hired with, I mean, there's remote workers that make $125,000 a year, living in wherever they want. So it's a very wide open space, and it's highly malleable as far as salary ranges. Because of the ability to live in so many different places and leverage technology. I mean, there's tons of tech companies now that leverage technology, and a lot of them aren't actually having offices. Like Automatic, the creators of WordPress, they are in the 100, I think they're at 300 employees, and they have 10 people in a San Francisco office, and everybody else is remote. So
not all the companies you work with are Montana companies. They're
we focus strictly on Montana companies for right now. That is our goal, is to service the local companies' needs and really solidify that. I mean, that's always going to be our main focus. And as things progress, what comes of that, I don't know. But this is meeting a need here in Montana, and that's why it's being created. I mean, it's a nonprofit, so we're about.
I mean, a lot of those Montana businesses now, they're based in Montana,
Yep.
but they're serving kind of national, international markets, as well as there are now national businesses that have operations kind of in Montana, like obviously Oracle when it bought Right Now, but a company like Workiva, which is technically, I think, headquartered out of Kansas, but all of their technical team, or the vast majority of their technical teams here in Montana. So there are a lot of opportunities. I think the other thing about the salary piece is not just, obviously you can move up the pay scales pretty quickly, but we're already starting to see kind of competition for talent amongst the tech community here, which I think will only continue to drive up those salaries and get that little bit of that sort of Montana discount that people talk about will start to get eroded pretty quickly here, I think.
Couple questions. So it's a 12-week program. Is it all day? Is it full day? How does that work? If I have someone already in my office, can my business sign them up and send them? What kind of coding are you teaching? I don't know a lot about coding, but I have a programmer and I have a second company who has somebody that needs to become a programmer. And right now we're on a SQL database.
Mm-hmm. So it's 9 to 5, so it's 12 weeks full time. There's really not much space in there to do much else because you're getting so much information so fast. So your mental bandwidth is pretty limited. And as far as, you can sign somebody up to come to class, we'd love that. We've talked with other companies about sending some of their individuals there. It's obviously, if it's a 12-week commitment for them to come, that's a negotiation between you and the employee, and there's a lot of things that happen there. But we've talked with the Department of Labor, and IWT, Incumbent Worker Training, is available for this. And with that, we're teaching, really JavaScript is our focus. For back-end languages, it's Node.js, and obviously HTML and CSS and SQL, both structured and unstructured SQL. So the really details of it are on our website, or we can chat later about it. I don't want to get too much into the weeds on that.
We would definitely encourage that model, though, of employers thinking about sending their existing employees. We had an example of one business that was they're a pretty big business, they've got a decent-sized technical team, but they also have a bunch of business people that work alongside those technical people. And they're saying, well, one, we need to grow our technical talent, but actually we could put some of our business people through it who might decide they then want to kind of jump over the fence and become part of the technical team, or just be much more proficient in really understanding programming so they can have much better interaction with the programmers about how do we get this application, this software doing what the business needs it to do. Ladies first.
Did you already say whether you have a website or someone wanting to look into more?
MontanaCodeschool.com.
And we have stickers.
And we have stickers.
Get one later.
And we're on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. Barrett?
So without creating an aptitude checklist, what is kind of a general list of aptitudes that you see in potential successful coders?
I think what we're sort of, that's both a broad question and what we're seeing as well in the cohort, but I think is sort of, there's clearly some intellectual curiosity there, and the problem-solving piece, the ability to create something, I mean, essentially from nothing. I mean, just start writing code, and then a few days later or a few weeks later, you've got something that does something. That's pretty cool to see. So I think people that like that creative process and that problem-solving process is what people are telling me is sort of is a key sort of mindset piece. What we're seeing in terms of those we're accepting into the program is they've already explored that intellectual curiosity. So they've been dabbling online. There's lots and lots of free and paid for resources to teach yourself online. But what I think those people have discovered is that you can take yourself so far with that, and there are tools to sort of try and facilitate your learning in terms of sort of discussion forums or kind of some video stuff you can do with some people to interact. But the reason boot camps are taking off across the country is that much more immersive, pairing with others, working in teams, having an instructor over your shoulder that you can call and say, hey, I'm stuck. You haven't got to spend 4 hours trying to spot some really obvious problem they can point out really quickly or help you realize you've gone down a kind of a rabbit hole. So people that have expressed some of that kind of curiosity already, I think, are a good fit. And we're doing some basic, for people coming into the program, we're doing some sort of basic sort of technical aptitude type tests to assess their kind of logical reasoning, their mathematical skills and stuff. So we'd encourage people to generally kind of dabble a little online, play around with a few courses, and we can recommend some stuff. There's some recommendations on the website as well for people to take a look at and see if they like it, see if they think it's fun.
For the businesses who might watch this online or people in the audience who might be interested in sending their employees, do you still have room for this class coming up?
Yes. So sorry, the question was, do we still have room if there are people that want to sign up with 2 weeks to go or a week and a half to go? The answer is yes.
Where did you find your first 10 cohorts that you got lined up?
They're all here in Montana. A couple from Bozeman, and the rest, the other 8 from here.
So one from Kalispell,
So,
maybe.
how do we find them? Every channel possible. We leveraged Facebook ads quite a bit. Obviously, the media press releases in both the Missoulian, the Independent, that stuff got picked up through other channels, and people talking, speaking at the High Tech Alliance. It's been a lot of just different resources and everybody all at the same time, just hammering every channel possible and hustling.
Even if you take kind of hear about 2 or 3 people, oh, I know someone that would be a good fit for. It's every time we talk to a group of people, we get that. So,
Yeah.
And we've got 2 or 3 people already in the hopper for cohorts in 2016 as well. That sort of this was too quick for them to be able to make that sort of career transition.
Maybe talk about that quickly, what those next cohorts are, so, we all can spread that circle of influence, or anyone, watching the video later on, what's up on deck?
Yeah, so we have our weekly meeting, which will be starting here in about half an hour. Now that we've got the first cohort done, that's sort of the next piece of business to start planning for the next one. But the goal will be to run 3 or 4 cohorts in 2016. I mean, what we're seeing with some of the other boot camps is they're adding programs rapidly, and not just other kind of programming programs, but also other sort of related skills like sort of marketing, kind of online digital marketing type stuff, things like that, product design. So who knows where in kind of 6 to 12 months the marketplace will tell us either other things. We've already had some of the conversations with some of the tech businesses that we've talked to so far have been, well, we understand why you sort of just have to pick a kind of a stack and a set of languages to teach, because you've got to focus in on something, and whatever selection you make, it'll make some people, it won't fit most of them. But they've had conversations with, well, we're a PHP shop or we're this, so can we think about doing a module that would focus on that? So we could even see, even continuing with this basic sort of the immersive introduction, then there could be maybe a 4 to 8 week module, which could be part-time. So it could be you get hired by someone, and then the code school offers sort of 1 or 2 days a week where we're helping give them some classroom training or about a particular language that then they can take back into the workplace and continue to kind of develop there. So I think there's a lot of options to be explored, and I think we'll see whether the market demands it, both from the business side and from the kind of student side. What do people want to learn?
So what can the 1 Million Cups community do to help support Montana Code School? What would be something ideal that we could help connect you with?
Yeah, spread the spring and summer cohort information, and if you're sitting down with businesses that use technical people, just have them get in touch with us. You know, Montana does not have, you know, there's lots of people flying under the radar, and it's not the easiest to reach everybody all at once. So we've got like the high level stuff, but when you're sitting down with people, you know, just be like, hey, have you heard of Montana Code School? You know, we're looking for mentors who are in the technical space to come in. We're looking for new students. It's just all about, you know, getting it out there, because every person, you know, helps us. Harold, what do you want to add?
We're looking for really interesting business problems that a web app might help with too.
Yeah. Harold just said we're looking for really interesting business problems that we can actually use in class and do some like case studies with and small projects.
And to be clear, Harold, kind of at this stage we're talking web apps as opposed to mobile apps. Everyone thinks every app has to be a mobile app, and that's not true, is it, Molly? Responsive mobile websites can do just great.
Thank you both for stepping in and helping us adapt this morning.
Yeah.